Hello and welcome to the Seek His Kingdom podcast.
Good evening.
Yes.
Or morning. Or noon.
Hello, day.
Yes.
Welcome.
Hope you're having a good.
Day.
No, just good.
Oh, you're having a good. Yeah, you're just having a good. Hey, I'm Daniel.
And I'm Andre.
And the goal of our podcast is always, well, we kind of set it up to be that we desire to seek His kingdom in our everyday lives.
Mm-hmm.
I think seek His kingdom first and foremost before anything else in our everyday lives. The verse that we got this from, or Andre actually originally got this from, it was his naming. The naming rights belong to Andre.
Uh-huh.
The idea...
Copyright. Seek His kingdom. No, not actually. Where was
so the text that the text that we got this from is what again? I forgot.
There's Matthew and Luke. Hold up, I have actually it. Let me open up where I have, because I'm low key working on a sermon that uses this as
Nice.
like the keywords. Luke 12 is one, and I think Matthew 6 or 9. I don't remember.
It's got to be
One of
6.
those. I think 6. Yeah.
Yeah, and this text is it. The text says, "Seek His kingdom first," or first seek His kingdom and righteousness, and everything else will be added to you. It's weird because it seems like right now in Christianity, we seem to be seeking everything other than the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
We seem to be seeking for what? Like justice and all these different things. Like everybody's like, yes, we seek for justice. We seek for, I don't know. At least that's the modern day thing that everybody seeks for.
Mm-hmm.
Justice, fairness. I mean, I guess that's what's been the thing that's been seeked for quite a while now. That's the things that people kind of focus on the most.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's not bad things to seek, and neither are like where the passage where it says like they seek after food, whatever. Like it's not like, oh, you want to eat, you're a bad person.
Yeah,
No,
exactly. That's not a terrible
ridiculous.
thing.
It's about like, what are you seeking first?
Exactly. And I think right now, because of the current cultural situation that we're in, a lot of people are seeking the welfare of their town.
Mm-hmm.
They're seeking the welfare of America. They're seeking the welfare of whatever your country you're living in. That's what it seems like people are doing. That they're trying to, like we all have these political answers. We know how to fix things in this world. Like we know the answer for all the problems if only we were the ones in charge. It's like Jordan Peterson says about socialism, where everybody that says, where you mentioned to somebody who supposedly says they're a socialist, and you say, well, look, it hasn't worked ever. And their response is, well, it hasn't been done right. And he says, if you ever hear a person that says, well, the problem with socialism is that it's never been done right, run from that person. Because that person assumes that, see, if I was in the place of Lenin, Stalin, Mao Zedong, and every other crazy socialist that ever existed, and they say, if it was I that was in charge, if I was in their place, socialism would have worked. We would have brought in the communist utopia, or whatever the idea is. The Marxism would have been at its finest. The thing is, it's actually with everything. It's not just socialism, or it's not just exclusive to socialism itself. Yeah. Every government is like that. You can't, it's like, oh yeah, capitalism would be perfect, or the current government style would be perfect today. It's just not been tried.
This actually, I think it applies to a lot of different situations. And I mean, okay, before we started recording, we were actually talking for a little bit, and we discussed what kind of the idea what we would talk about. And this might kind of lead into that. But point is, this applies to everything, including, for example, I do a lot of stuff with music at my church. And there's always kind of this sense of like, you get, like the new people. Okay, I don't want to say specifically, but like people who are not involved in a certain ministry think that they can do that ministry better than it is being done right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Every organizational structure would be perfect if the person was perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, okay, sure. Some organizational styles are terribly built, but like nothing actually works perfectly. That's why you have to see what's more efficient, what's better. You
What's
have to
like
find
realistic, I guess.
Yeah, what's realistic. And yes, in a perfect world where there are no sinners and people aren't greedy, socialism might have worked. But the reality is that people are sinners, and you give them that much power that socialism seems to give to those people that are in charge, well, then people are going to die, especially socialism has some evil things in its heart, some sinful things in its heart. But the point is not socialism. The point is that the American system, just like every other system that exists in this world, is flawed. And for us we're gonna fix it. We're gonna find something. And for us to expect that, like, if we elect the right officials, if we make the right laws, that at one point we're going to get to this place where there's going to be absolute unity between the Democratic and Republican parties, and that we're going to have perfect justice will be done at every single level. This is insanity for us to think that way. But we want to point this in a different direction.
Yeah.
Why is everyone, we're talking about the church, why are Christians so focused on government things? Why are Christians so focused on politics, on laws, on all these things? Why are they so much more focused on that? Why are they focused on the worldly kingdom more than they're focused on the kingdom of heaven? Why don't we actually look into the church? Why don't we actually take the time to start seeing what's going on in our own house?
Yeah. Kind of like fix, we have enough problems to deal with as it is.
Exactly.
And that doesn't mean just become apathetic about politics and like just step out. It's like, but if you're more concerned about the state of, I don't know,
the United States of America,
than you are about the state of the church, that's to an extent, if the church is rotten, and then the people are going to be rotten, and then your country's going to be rotten, I guess.
Yeah, you're right. That a big degree is like, if the church affects the culture, and the current state of the church is not good, right? If the current state of the church is not good, it's only logical that the current state of society is not going to be that great either. I think we don't realize that. We want to change laws. We want to put logical ideas in there, but we're expecting too much. We're expecting that sinful people are going to just accept these rules, when what we really need to be focusing on is the church. The church is the thing that will last past America. America will be long gone and half forgotten, and the kingdom of heaven will still be progressing. It will still be moving forward. We need to be more focused on these things, and we have issues that we need to focus on within the church. That are huge, that are massive, and we need to talk about these things, and we need to have these conversations. This is very important stuff. So it's something that bothers me, that like we're so focused. So there was actually an article that we read by a pastor named Kevin DeYoung recently. Andre, you sent it to me, right? Yeah, you sent it to me.
Dude, I don't remember what I had for breakfast.
Yeah, you sent it to me. Well, he said we need to be countercultural, and he explained maybe we need to rethink the way we're countercultural. And one thing he mentioned in it was what's called the Benedict option. It's a book that was called the Benedict option, where the man was actually, what was he, Eastern Orthodox, I think he was, that wrote the book. There was a lot of questions about the book itself, but his like whole premise of the book was like, maybe we need to regroup. Maybe we need to get back into the church, answer some questions, and then go back out. I think we can kind of parse through that and have slightly a different, I guess a little bit different than that.
And I will kind of preface with, we're not here to like everything, like we're 20-year-old idiots that probably, I'll speak for myself at least, like that we're not gonna single-handedly change everything, but we want to kind of maybe point out a few things.
We aren't going to fix things. We don't. I mean, I feel like every young person that always comes up is like growing, is always like, yeah, this older generation, it really needs to.
Literally what we talked about, like at the beginning, it's like you think, oh, if I got my hands, then I'll like on it, then I'll fix everything. Like no.
Yeah, we're not that. That's for sure. I think we need to preface that right away, that we are not the people that are like, we don't want to be the people that are like, man, if I was only in charge of this church.
If there's one thing kind of I've learned as I've become more involved, it's kind of like, this stuff is actually really difficult.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I found myself at that level, you know. I remember when I was younger and I had something to strive for, and you would always sit there and you listen to a sermon and you hear a guy and he'd preach on something and you'd be like, you know, I would say it in a different way. I would kind of add this, I would add that. And the same thing is like, you start looking at somebody who's leading a church and you're like, you know, if I was in charge, I would do it this way and that way. And now I'm leading a youth. I'm a youth leader in a small church. And I'm like, man, dude, this is way tougher than I ever thought it would ever be. Like I'm in this situation where it's like, you can critique me all day long and I have my issues. And I bet that there's some young, smart, smarty pants that can come in and tell me, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. And it's like, oh my goodness, dude. Yeah. How about you come up here and try to do it? And I mean, there's probably people that can do it better than me, but
like, I think, I mean, it's good to always take like, I don't know, criticism correctly, I guess. It's good to take criticism that is actually helpful, but like when it's
arrogant.
Yeah.
When the criticism is arrogant, like, you know what, you should step down. I'll do this better.
Because it's like you might have a different set of pros to the way you'll do things, but trust me, you have your cons as well.
Yeah, that's not to say that there are people that are not objectively bad at their job.
Yeah, but that's
there are people that are actually bad at their jobs, that are bad at what they're doing, but
yeah, we're not gonna. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, but to peddle at small little things and say that that I'll do it better. It's like, you know what? Maybe you won't.
Yeah, and like ultimately, it kind of comes down to humility. It's like at some point, we don't know everything.
Anyway, after cutting the branch that we're sitting on and destroying the whole foundation of the rest of this conversation, let's talk
about what's wrong with the church
and how we're going to fix it.
No, but we actually want to kind of discuss just what is the church, what should it look like, I guess, what are maybe we could even cover just like what are we doing right.
I think we could do both.
Yeah.
Because like modern day church doesn't look like church did in the first century. We got microphones. We have stages. We have hundreds, if not thousands of people.
We have fog machines.
We have lasers. We have
for the
dimmers.
record, neither of our churches have fog machines.
Yes, neither of our churches have.
Actually, so last youth service, I made a joke to Vitaly, if you listen to this. I made a joke to him about like, oh, we should get fog machines. Total joke. But we had something that went on, and we gave a cake to Tolik, and there was a lot of candles on. He blew them out. Vitali's like, "Hey, look, Andre, your fog machine."
Your fog machine. No fog machines in our church, and
but like, and that's kind of what we want to discuss. It's like, what should we have fog machines, Daniel? What's the theology behind fog machines?
See, that's a really good question because these things aren't written in the Bible.
Yeah.
And each church, again, this is a very modern day talk. What do you mean each church? Because we're all one church, technically.
Yeah.
We're the Church of Jesus Christ,
Each-
saved, redeemed, but then, modern day conversation that we have. Each church does it in a different way and has their own traditions. And don't tell me that my church doesn't have traditions. We only follow the Bible, because that's total junk. That is not true. Every single church has their own traditions. Every church.
And for what it's worth, some traditions are Bible based.
Correct.
While some are not.
Correct. That's very true. And that's probably the way that we should evaluate traditions, whether we can find them on the basis of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
But like, honest question, what's the point of a fog machine?
Atmosphere.
Make it look cool?
Yeah. It's okay, and that's one thing I kind of want to go into. It's part of a production.
Yeah.
Which I have always kind of been very wary of, because even as like having done a lot of stuff with music and worship and stuff like that, like there is no correlation between how professional everything looks and how perfect your band is playing and how perfect you're singing, and in correlation with I guess how genuine the worship is.
Yeah. So I think before we answer the question of whether or not we need fog machines, the question is, what's the goal of the church? What's the goal of the church? Like, what are we here? Like, what's the goal of worship? What are we even doing here?
I have, where is it? Hebrews.
While you look for it, that's the question of professionalism.
Mm-hmm.
How important is it to be just this professional? How important is it to look like you're having a production and have 4K cameras all over the place, like 4 cranes in the church, and make it look insane, look like a crazy party? Anyway, go.
So Hebrews chapter 10, I mean, we'll go specifically into 24, 25. And let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, all the more as you see the day. I mean, I get kind of like it's talking about.
Essentially, the point of coming together is fellowship and the provocation to good works.
Yeah. And there's another passage that I don't remember where.
Yeah. So worship, right? Like encourage one another with songs and hymns and spiritual songs and. Okay, so what's the point? Encouragement, right? Like, worship
Ephesians
of God
5.
is. So the problem is this whole question would be super foreign, especially like even going back, not going back centuries, just going back a couple decades, like in the 90s, in the 80s, in the 70s, before churches were alive and online and streaming and everybody can see it. Before all of this, before all of this, nobody had the problem of video. Like, nobody had video in their church. You just had church. And then came video, and then came YouTube, and then came
podcasts like this one.
Yeah. But then came, we're not worried. We're not going on stage and we're worried because we're going to present the word of God. We're worried now because we need to make a good production.
Mm-hmm.
So why is this question so relevant? When are we living? We are in 2020. What are we in the midst of? A worldwide pandemic.
Okay, that one. I was going to say something much more.
Oh, nice. And in the midst of this pandemic, what we got going on is that every church had to go in some way digital. Maybe not every church. Maybe not every church did it, but Every church had to become a production company, man.
Mm-hmm.
My fiance's church in Ukraine, in a village, produced videos of their church services. Do you understand? Like, I've been to their church. The level of simplicity of their church services are just, they're so accessible. There's no uptightness. There's no expectation that you need to be professional and you need to be a movie actor to be up there on a stage. You just say what's in your heart. And I'm not saying that it's perfect because it's a church in a village somewhere deep in Ukraine.
I'll actually comment on that, like the whole idea of being uptight and professional. I was recently on this like group, and somebody was like talking about how nervous they are about like an upcoming service, and like how they want everything to go well, and like if something goes wrong, it's kind of like the end of the world.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was thinking about it. I was like these things that we have, the production, the microphones, the video, it's all supposed to be tools. It's not supposed to be the main part. If something goes wrong, like, so what? Like, just kind of be like, hey, the tool failed. Let's move on.
But just be like, being part of a church plant, I've had to become sound guy, like light. It's been a wreck. I was never a sound guy. And all of a sudden I'm sitting on YouTube looking at videos on how do you do sound and make it sound good. And I'm like, okay, and I'm sitting there at church, right? And I'm freaking out because like this Sunday, oh my goodness, church is about to start and I'm not happy at all because our microphones are giving tons of feedback. I sort of set things up, tried to get the gain to work, the frequencies and everything to work properly. And all of a sudden things just don't seem to be working out. And I'm pulling out my hair. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. And then I like internally kind of just stopped and went, oh my goodness, this is church. Chill out, man.
Yeah.
Chill out.
And like, I've been there because like I do stuff like my church media, like I do everything from sound to video. And it's like, sometimes you get so caught up in doing that stuff that you're like, wait up, I'm at church. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like, all this production stuff, I think it's because we are in the midst of beautiful video, which I love video. I love good video. I love good audio. I love all this stuff, but we are so attracted to it. Like, we're so attracted to building a beautiful scene, to having a nice LED screen on our stage, and like having a perfectly lit stage, having all the lights set up well, having the best sound system, having the bass perfect, having the sound perfect. But then you go to those churches and that experience is so dry. I mean, I'm not like an experience focused guy, but like, it's so beautiful from the outside. It is literally like a whitewashed tomb because what's being focused on.
Yeah. And to repeat kind of the point we made with the whole Seek His Kingdom first, it's not that it's bad to have excellence. It's not that it's bad to like make sure that your lights are good, that make sure your sound sounds good.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's that like, if in doing that you kind of miss the point, like then who cares?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. If the gospel isn't preached while you have impeccable video, you failed.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you failed.
Yep.
And I think that's a big, massive issue.
I keep wanting to. there's I'll put it this way. There's ministries that have amazing video, and amazing productions, but you're like, ugh.
Yeah, but then you start listening to the theology and you start going, oh my goodness, what's going on with these people?
Like the pioneers, I guess, of Christian television. What, TVN?
Man, that sucks. It really sucks.
Were they the pioneers? I feel like they were the first ones.
I don't know. Were they the very first channel that?
Let me to Wikipedia.
Of course. When did they start?
I don't know anything about this. 1973, which feels like probably not. There's probably somebody before them. The point is, they're like one of the...
Really?
Yeah.
Sounds like the prime of television is when they came out.
Yeah, but like, I don't know nothing about their history. But
Definitely.
Point is, like, they have this crazy everything, but like the stuff you hear on there, it's like, oh
yeah,
boy.
Exactly. And that's the sad part. I mean, we have video that is so high quality that the human eye doesn't see as well as cameras today see. They will zoom in and they will light your ugliest pimple in the most perfect way. And, and we're expected to live in this. And honestly, I don't think this has brought more sincerity. I think it's brought more negative sides to this. Like it requires everybody that goes up on stage to be an actor.
And I was actually once listening on YouTube. I've always been kind of curious about like using in-ears during worship, and I was listening to an in-ear mix on YouTube, and it could just completely turn me off of the whole idea. Like, because I was like, dude, this is you just have this click going in your head all the time, and then every like this is how they had it set up, but it was like verse 1.
Oh my goodness.
Verse 2. And I was like, dude, you're like, it's like you're, I don't know, programmed to.
So robotic.
Yeah. But, and I will actually note one thing. Daniel's microphone is rubber banded to his tripod right now.
Yeah, this is exactly. See, some of you might ask the question, why do we not videotape? Because if we videotaped, man, you guys would see.
My garage.
Yes. Andre's garage is an absolutely beautiful place. This is not the place to film in. I'm just going to tell you right now, we don't have the lights. Okay. We have one ring light that I bought for myself recently. That's about all. There's a bunch of LED lights that are just like strapped around here. It's a beautiful garage.
But it's a garage.
I'm just going to tell you that. We have we both have rags attached to our mic stands in one way or another, right? Like, because my mic is rubber banded to my stand because I forgot to bring a part of my stand because I bring my own stand here. I forgot to bring my table today. So today I'm using a chair and my computer is sitting on another chair. Me and Andre are like sitting diagonally across from each other. And video is an amazing thing, but we have these genuine conversations sitting here. I mean, of course, we probably can if we had video, and maybe eventually we'll set it up, and it'll be fantastic and amazing. And I mean, thank God for it.
But if we're like missing out on actually having these conversations because we're like, oh, it's not good enough, like, then what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. I heard about this is anecdotal evidence. I'm not sure how true this is, but I heard there was a local pastor during this coronavirus time that while filming, he had to redo his sermon 3 times because he was just struggling getting it across. Like that's what he got to. That's the point that he got to. Okay, so now we're getting to that question of if this is a problem in our churches, right? If we're getting overly professional, or if what should we do? Should we just be, we can run into a different problem where we have no video, we have no audio. We just get together, we sit in some beat up room that smells terribly and you can hardly sit through. Church service is boring because there is no planning, no production. We're just going to go at it as we go, because some people think that no planning is best. Just like I've heard some preachers that are like, I have never prepared a sermon in my life.
I didn't prepare for today because I am speaking from my heart.
Yes, because I am led by the Holy Spirit. There are legitimately people out there that believe that actually preparing for a sermon is a bad idea.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, that's not the answer to this issue.
Like, I think it was Paul Washer who says, he's like, brothers, the congregation doesn't need to hear what's on your heart. They need to hear what's in the Word of God.
Amen.
And I'm like, yes.
Amen. Yes, exactly. I think there is middle ground, and I think, because if we just go no video, if we go no audio, if we do none of these things, then I think we miss the opportunity to reach out to this world.
It's
I
like
think
the printing press. Like, imagine someone's like, oh, with all these books, why would we write?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, there could have been abuses. I can't even imagine right now what
I'm
kind
sure
of
there's
abuses.
plenty of heresy that's printed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
we see it today.
Yeah, there's beautiful books, probably some very eloquent author that that wrote terrible information. And you know what? I'm just going to be honest with you right now, today, in this day and age. One of the biggest problems is still that some of the best-selling books are by the worst authors.
Yeah.
Like some of the best Christian books that are
Best-selling, not best.
selling. Yeah, some of the best-selling books in Christianity are by authors who have no theology at all.
Some of the most popular podcasts also. Let's see what the iTunes top religion podcasts are. Top Christian podcast. Christianity section, Joel Osteen podcast. Enough said.
Number 1?
Yep.
No words.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
There you go. There you go. That answers everything. Yeah. So just because of that doesn't mean that we need to stop using these technologies that we have.
And I would even argue that like microphone noises. I would even argue that we should use technology for kind of overtake it with correct theology.
Yeah, for sure. But not make it the goal of production value. Truth will do its job. Now, that being said, the production should still be not a pain in the eyes to look in.
I like that you actually use the word product, because I have heard church services described as a product, and I'm like,
it's not a product. Yeah. When I said that word, I was like, yikes.
Yeah.
I just said that. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing because it'll start a conversation right now, because a lot of people assume or like they think of church service as a product.
Yeah. And I've even heard like marketing terms being used for services, and it's kind of like, oh, well, if your product isn't good enough, then people aren't going to come to your church. It's like, hold up.
Church capitalism.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
It's church capitalism. And what is our currency? People.
Yeah.
I have 1,000 people at my church today.
Yeah. Which, what do you think is the ideal church size?
Good question.
I actually have a very specific answer.
Go for it.
The amount of people that the pastor can know personally. To an extent.
That's good. That is good.
And different people have different, I guess, amounts.
That is good. Yeah. Clearly that's not a ton.
Yeah.
That's clearly not a ton.
Yeah. If and the way like a lot of the mega churches kind of work around this is they have campus pastors or whatever. But like to some extent, like, okay, sure, if you're kind of I don't, okay, I'll be honest, I don't know very much about church government, how different denominations run churches. I honestly never looked into that, but I think we can agree that there are a lot of churches where people get lost in the crowd.
Yes, for sure. I think that's a big problem. I think, okay. I think it doesn't matter what church you go to. If it's a massive church, I think you can get lost in the crowd.
Yeah. And some churches also try to solve this with small groups, which, like, for what it's worth, I'll bring up Grace Youth as an example. We don't have, I guess, a ton of people. Like, we have enough people where like we can go around and know every person. So when we do small groups, it's more so we can go even further in depth, which I think is a good thing.
My youth is a small group.
Yeah. Literally
and figuratively. It is a small group. That's exactly what it is. And actually what we've been doing recently is we started doing, we did service, okay, so to speak. We did traditional service, and then occasionally we would do small group style study.
Yeah.
Where we would have kind of conversation and talking. We do worship, like we would sing, and then we would go and we would do a small group style. And actually, the youth really, really like the small group style, sometimes even more than the service. Because at the service, you can kind of fall asleep, right? But here, you're kind of interactive.
Because the service is like often, again, that production thing. It's like, okay, well, I'm just here doing the thing I do every week. Which I'm actually, after we're done recording tonight, I'm actually going to our, like, what we call them, grace groups. And, like, man, I love those things. Like, it's...
There's so much conversation to be had.
And that, I mean, at some points, like, you got to admit, sometimes conversations we have are, you're like, ooh, no. you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bible study discussions, sometimes you're like, ooh, no. That's not it. But the point is that people are actually engaged and learning, which...
And discipleship can happen.
Yeah.
Right? Because the point of the church is Jesus says, go and make disciples. And what the problem for us is that, like, we have these mega churches and the goals are not goals are not realized. What is the purpose of what we're doing here? Is it just we want more people in the kingdom, therefore we're just going to make massive churches? But are those churches actually filled with real disciples?
Are they? I'll put it this way. Are they filled with people looking for your product or for people who believe in Jesus Christ?
Yeah, exactly. So I've become recently essentially a member of I'm part of a church plant. Let's put it that way. It's a more Slavic style church, you know. It's a very different experience. I came from a mega church. It can be defined as a mega church. It was over 1,000 people. They at the time that I stopped going, it was at about 1,200 people in the church. I got to the point where I was coming every Sunday, and I was meeting new people, and like it was like, oh, he's an usher, and he's meeting me, and he's telling me where to sit down, and I've never seen this person before. And I'm like, wait, hold up. Have you gone to our church? Where did you come from? Okay, I must say that I do a lot of trips to Ukraine because I'm engaged to a girl in Ukraine. Speaking of which, I'm supposed to fly out here soon.
The 15th?
No, the 2nd.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
On Thursday.
How are we going to record?
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay.
So I go there very often, and pretty much all of last year I was kind of back and forth, and I was gone for a while, and I come back, and I did not recognize my church. I did not recognize the people that go to my church. I was shocked. I was like, whoa. And the problem is, if it was new salvations, right? If it was people who had just believed, that would be one thing. But the church is essentially it's built out of immigrants. People that are moving from Ukraine are going directly into this church. And it's a funnel. It's like a massive, just huge influx of people coming in. The building is massive. It was just finished, last year. It's only about a year and a half old now. And people are flooding that church. It's packed. But there's so many people that slip between the fingers. Tons of people are slipped between the fingers because you can't hold them. And right now I'm in this church, and it's like what I experience right now is like if somebody doesn't come to church, everybody notices. Everybody sees. They're like, whoa, he's not at church. Oh, they're not at church. Hey, what's up? What's going on? Because most of the time everybody's involved. Everyone's doing something. And if they're not doing something at that church service, they're doing something at the next church service, and you're always like, hey, what's up with that person? Why isn't that person coming anymore? And you're so laser focused on every single person that comes. Of course,
there's like complete accountability.
Yeah, it's huge, and you can't really hold a grudge on anyone because you see these people every single week. These are the people you meet with, and they seriously become like family.
You can't avoid people.
Exactly.
And I think that's a really good thing that we should put ourselves through.
So am I a proponent of small church? I am a proponent of small church. How small? Well, it depends on like it depends on each person. Sure, is there a value in big church? I guess there is, because there's so much people, because you have so many people that you can connect with. But there's so much that's missed, I think, because of it.
And that's the thing. I think one reason that, and I'll say this as being someone who does a lot of stuff with media, worship, all that kind of stuff, that there's this temptation to want a bigger church because you're like, okay, I'll have more volunteers. Like I'll have, like you, for example, like if you had more people, you might have a sound guy in those people.
Exactly. And we're struggling with that.
Yeah. And
if you're a sound guy and you don't have a church and you are in the South King County area, Zion Church in Edgewood needs you.
Yes. Hey, our first ad.
There you go. That's first sponsor, no money.
But in all seriousness, like if you for some reason are listening,
volunteer position, no one's getting paid.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like it's kind of like the bigger the church, it's a chicken and egg thing, because the bigger the church, the more volunteers you have. But the bigger the church, the more work there is to do. So you need more volunteers, so you need more people, and it kind of just grows out of control. And I think to some extent we try to do too much, I guess. To go back to the whole production thing, we try to like 20 cameras, like everybody, this huge team, and like do all these crazy things.
We have one right now, thank God. That's all. That's already too much.
We have 5.
Oh my goodness.
4 of them are, 2 of them are usually manned, like minimum.
Gotcha.
But and that's kind of thing. Like that's one of our biggest things. We just don't have enough people oftentimes to do things. And I was kind of thinking, I was like, isn't that just a sign that maybe we don't need to, like, we don't need all that? Like, no, I'm all for having good quality recordings and all that stuff. But if I'm like really struggling to music, for example, if I'm really struggling to find my third electric guitarist or whatever, it's like maybe I just need an acoustic guitar and a piano. And
yeah, definitely. See, this is something that I'm like experiencing right now, because one of our worship teams, so to speak, one of our worship groups has a piano and drums, and the other one has a guitar, and that's it. And the problem is we can't, like, sure, we can have the pianist and the guitarist and the drummer for both teams all the time, or we could just make one group and just kind of switch off. We kind of just ended up going in that direction. I don't know why it ended up working that way, but that's kind of what happened. The guitarist, the pianist, and the drummer, they can play for all the teams, but we ended up having this thing where we ended up with 2 teams. It was kind of an interesting situation, but we are in need of these things, like, of course, but at the same time, even though we don't have them, there's still something about the worship that's amazing. Dude, this is not something that you can, throw out on Spotify and get millions of listens, because it's not that quality, but it is
genuine.
It's genuine. I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but oftentimes it's genuine.
Yeah. So and for me, it's a little seeing these big Christian artists just one after another, how they're turning away from the faith, and I'm like, man, was that any of that really real?
Exactly. So production is amazing, but man,
it's not the goal.
It's not the goal. Maybe what we should be focusing on is the church itself, and maybe it is.
Yeah.
The gospel. We need to be preaching. We need to be real. We need to be real, and we can't have tech and production at the expense of genuine relationships and the gospel. Maybe we should consider doing church at home more often too.
And I will say that oftentimes there is, since you brought up church at home, there often is the opposite problem, I guess, where you have these, I guess, small heretical movements with no oversight that are like,
facts.
We're redefining church.
Yeah.
Like,
that's definitely true. That's definitely
the whole,
true.
what was it, emergent church or whatever?
Yeah, there needs to be oversight in it. I think there's a good way to do it and have oversight. But could we rethink things in church? I think there could be things that we can do.
We can improve.
But you know what the problem is? The problem is traditions.
Mm-hmm. In both directions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
Facts.
there's traditions where you're like, oh, well, this is the way we did it 50 years ago, so this is how we must continue doing. And then there's also...
And then there's the other tradition.
Yeah, there's also...
We have to move forward all the time.
We have to do with what Bethel or Elevation doing, which, by the way, we could probably do a whole episode.
On them?
Yeah.
Look, there's the tradition of progression, and then there's the tradition of conserving.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see those two traditions at war even right now in America.
I think we've said this phrase before. What are you conserving?
Yeah, exactly. So I think rather than trying to save something or trying to progress somewhere, we have to, I think there's a good place where we can kind of mark out traditions and be willing to let go of those things and mark out doctrines and make that the center of our churches.
I really want to say the phrase gospel-centered, but that has a lot of...
Oh my goodness, there's so many connotations in that nowadays.
There's, people have... okay, the phrase on itself, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, but
gospel's main thing, blah, blah, blah. But there's a whole... I guess movement around it that's kind
it's like gospel centered and then blank. You throw in anything you want. Gospel centered car sales.
Dude, I posted this on, there was this like a Slack group. It was gospel centered and Enneagram or whatever. And I'm like, oh man. What? It's so like, here's the thing. Like the gospel is the gospel. It doesn't category error, I guess.
Exactly.
You're bringing it into things that are not sin and salvation and human soul. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the church needs to be centered on the gospel. That's the main thing. That's our main goal, and we need to be focused on like how do we center our church as much as possible on that and not get overly addicted to the whole production side, because especially right now where like everybody feels like, okay, what we need to do is we need to have the perfect video, have the perfect sound, have the perfect product. We need to have everything and to attract the church. And this is something that I know exactly what it feels like because we often talk about, okay, how can we bring people into our church? How can we bring people into our groups? And the arguments are always the type of music we have, the type of worship we have, the type of what we do after church, the type of fellowship we have, the type of meetings we have, the type of production we have. Are we online? Is our presence online? Are we doing this? Are we doing that? Are we doing this? Are we doing that? The question is, hold on. Are we preaching Jesus? Okay, we are? Okay, if we're preaching Jesus, then our goal is to get that message out. Whatever means that we can possibly use. But that's not the way we usually did it. Okay, that's fine. The way we do it today is also not the way that the apostles did it.
Yep.
And that means that's fine as long as the message gets out. That's the goal, and that's how we bring people in. We don't steal them from other churches. Yeah, they might want to move to our church if they like it better here. They might want to come to our church after they immigrate from another country. But the final goal is that the gospel is preached, and through the gospel, people come to the church.
Amen.
Through the hearing of the word, through the transformation of the heart. That's how people come to church.
Amen.
I mean, I guess that's our conversation for today. Sorry for not being longer or like expanding on this. And of course, we probably could have had even a lot more to say, but that's kind of...
Yeah, I have some actually, maybe we'll talk about some other time, but I have some interesting like ideas around even, I don't know, just the idea of trusting God with certain like things. Look up, this is just a slight example, one small example. Look up how Heart Cry Missionary does their funding. Just go, Google their, what's it called? Look up their kind of reasoning around that.
It says, every need of this ministry will be obtained through prayer. We may share our missionary vision with others and even make it known to them the specific tasks that the Lord has laid in our hearts to do, but we may not raise support through prodding or manipulating our brothers and sisters in Christ.
Yep.
That's powerful.
Yeah. And I think that kind of could apply to everything that we just kind of talked about. It's like, are we trying to manipulate people in? Are we trying to get them in through this product that we've created?
Yeah, that's so true.
Okay.
I'm going to leave you, I'm going to leave everybody who's listening to us, I'm going to leave you with these words that are said by one of my favorite preachers that I often listen to. What you win them with is what you win them to. The thing that you attracted them with is what will keep them. If you attracted them with good music, with charismatic sermons, with fantastic video, with fellowship, with whatever it is that you attracted them with, the thing that you attracted them with is what will keep them. If you attracted them with the Word of God, that's what will keep them, and that's what you want. Is it hard to make a church and make it big and make it last? Yes. But let's stop focusing on the size and start seeing what we can do with what we have and just focus on preaching the truth. Focus on that.
Who said that, by the way?
James White.
Nice. Okay. I think we're slightly short on time, I'll admit.
Yes, we are.
Because of said small group that I have to go to. But I think this was an interesting conversation, and I hope that it gave you guys something to think about. Maybe especially if you're like, if you serve in some way in the church, like maybe this will kind of make you, I guess, rethink some of your motives for doing stuff, some of your
absolutely
methodology, maybe. I don't know.
For sure.
Yeah.
I hope that this can be a tool. I mean, that's all we hope to be is a tool, just to help Christians think about everything that they're doing. Anyway, thanks for joining us today at the Seek His Kingdom podcast. We're really happy that you joined us. We'll see how we do this in the future because of
Daniel being in Ukraine.
Yes. Yours truly having to get married, and thank God it's finally looking like it's about to happen.
Yeah. I think, okay, we'll definitely have something in 2 weeks. If it's kind of recorded separately or if it's recorded maybe with somebody else, then we'll see.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll figure something out. Maybe we'll have a guest that will be filling in for me or something. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. I already know who.
I bet I can guess. Yeah, I can guess. All right. Anyway, again, thank you guys so much for joining us on the Seek His Kingdom podcast. Hope that we could hope that we were a blessing for you today, and join us. Spread the word about us. We don't have crazy good video or anything. Our audio is not too bad, I guess.
Our video is a picture.
Yes, our video is fantastic.
I was going to actually comment on that. We now have, speaking of production, we now have consistent branding.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Maybe that will attract you. Wow.
Because like every time like we'd have different style of posts, and I was like, yeah, I need to pick something.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, super excited about this to keep doing this. And I mean, the reason why we're doing this is to preach the word of God. We love good production, but the goal that we have is the gospel. And so that's what we're going to do. So if there's somebody you want to share this with, go ahead and do that. And thank you again for listening. May
Thanks.
God bless you and be with you. And as you go about throughout this time that we're living through, and learn the Bible, become more centered, seek His kingdom.
Yep.
Ta-da!